What I'd really like to do is something extraordinary. Something big, something mega, something copious, something capacious, something kajunga.
Welcome back, guys. Week 1 of the NFL is underway, and it's been amazing so far. Between the barn burner down in Miami, where the Ravens and Lamar Jackson absolutely lit up the Miami Dolphins, to the Pittsburgh Steelers losing by big points last night on Sunday night game, I'm pretty excited to talk about some of the waiver wire pickups for week 1. Before we get into that, for those of you that are new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button below to get notified anytime a new video is uploaded. What I'm going to give you in this channel are the tools to succeed in your league and make some money. This isn't just something for me. I would much rather that we make money together. I'm in 8 leagues. You're in a couple of leagues. You want to make some money. Picking up free agents and waiver wire targets every single week is what's going to set your team apart. So that's what we're going to go into today. Waiver wire pickups at the quarterback position, running backs, a couple wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. So going into the waiver wire pickups for the week at quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. He's 12% owned, and he kind of had an okay or maybe above average game against a really tough defense in the Los Angeles Chargers on the road, but he threw 2 touchdowns and 190 yards in that game. He might be more of a long-term ad. Week 2, he's playing against the Tennessee Titans. I don't like that matchup, especially after what they did in Cleveland. But in weeks to come, he's got Falcons, Raiders, and Chiefs, which might put him more in that low-end QB1, high upside QB2 range. Definitely worth throwing in a waiver pick on Jacoby Brissett if you absolutely need a quarterback. Other than that, we've got Gardner Minshew for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is kind of an interesting one because everybody was expecting to get an entire season out of Nick Foles. He goes out, he throws 5 for 8, 75 yards and a touchdown, gets smacked behind the line of scrimmage, and breaks his collarbone. Pretty unfortunate. But Gardner Minshew and that sweet mustache of his came in, suited up, and threw 22 of 25 passes for 275 yards and 2 touchdowns. He threw 1 pick as well, but next week the Jaguars have the Houston Texans, who supposedly have one of the weaker secondaries in the NFL, and we're going to see tonight as they play the New Orleans Saints in about an hour. Other than that, a couple of additional adds at quarterback. Josh Allen, he's 32% owned in Yahoo, and he's one of those guys where, he didn't really have a great game. It was kind of stagnant between the Jets and the Bills yesterday, but the upside that Josh Allen brings to the table is his rushing yards. You saw that by him getting a rushing touchdown in, the tail end of that game, but I think that he's going to have a lot more upside than most quarterbacks because of that rushing ability, but he also gets a plus matchup in the New York Giants week 2. So if you're streaming the quarterback position, Josh Allen is somebody you want on your roster because the Bills are going to be able to put up some points this week. Outside of Josh Allen, Gardner Minshew, and Jacoby Brissett, the other possible add is Sam Darnold. Now, he's only 26% owned in Yahoo, and he didn't really have a great matchup against the Bills, but he threw the ball 41 times. There aren't that many quarterbacks that go out there and throw 41 times, but he gets to go against the Cleveland Browns defense that just got absolutely stomped by Marcus Mariota and the Titans. So if you're looking for a matchup-based streaming option, Sam Darnold's your guy. Moving on to running backs. I need you to listen to me. Listen. I got you covered, all right? I've been on the Adrian Peterson hype train since pre-draft. He was a great value in the 12th round, and it's even better now because apparently in week 1, Darius Geis injured his other knee, not the one that's had 5 surgical procedures done to it, but he's talking about potentially trying stem cell therapy to avoid surgery. None of that sounds good. I'd never wanted anything to do with Darius Geis to begin. And you look at what Adrian Peterson did last season, 271 touches, 1,250 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He offered running back 2 numbers in every single format, PPR, standard, half point. If he's available on the waiver wire, being that he's only 37% owned in Yahoo, he's a guy that you need to go pick up. Definitely worth a waiver claim. And if you guys aren't familiar with how the waivers work, every Tuesday morning at 3:01 a.m. the waivers clear. So if there's a claim in for a player with the highest priority, that player is going to get added to their roster. At 3:01, all of the players that did not have a waiver priority in for him are then free agents, and you can go in and add and drop them as you please. This, overall, the most positive part of this is that it does not affect your waiver priority. So my league, the longer you go without using a waiver wire pick, the higher you go up in priority. So if somebody gets injured and I have the number one priority, it's guaranteed if I put in a claim for him that I'm going to get him, he's going to be on my team because I have first dibs. So you want to kind of use your waiver wire picks a little bit sparingly. There are a couple of guys that are worth a waiver usage this week, but if not, and you feel like picking up some of these guys, wake up at 2:55 tomorrow morning like I do. Set your alarm, go in there at 3:01, see who's still there, and add and drop them. It's going to give you a huge advantage over your competition, and all I want to see is us make some money together. We were just started talking about the running backs, Adrian Peterson specifically. There are two other ads that might be worth your time. Malcolm Brown for the Los Angeles Rams. He didn't get drafted in a lot of leagues. It depends really how sharp the guys are in the leagues that you're in. But so many people were rubbing their crystal ball trying to say, oh, how's this backfield going to work with Gurley having arthritis in his knee, and Darrell Henderson's there. He got drafted. Like, he's going in the 6th or 7th round in most fantasy drafts. He must be the backup. Malcolm Brown has always been the backup. And the best part about it is you got to see Todd Gurley have 14 touches, and right behind him was Malcolm Brown with 11. Here's the kicker. Malcolm Brown scored the 2 rushing touchdowns. All right? The Rams have been saying they were going to manage Gurley's workload this entire offseason. They're going to give him less snaps. They're going to save his knee. They're going to keep him fresh. Malcolm Brown is a guy that you need to add if he's on your waiver wire. Other than that, we have Ronald Jones with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel dirty saying this. I'm thoroughly disgusted with myself. I can't stand the Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield. I don't want any piece of it. Now, I don't mind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a whole. They've got some great wide receivers, and Bruce Arians is going to throw the ball a ton this year. But all three of those guys, between Peyton Barber, Ronald Jones, and Dare Ogunbowale, none of them really look like an option that I want to put my fantasy money on. So the only difference here was that Ronald Jones had 14 touches, 75 yards on the ground, which is a career high for him, and 18 receiving yards. So, you had Peyton Barber right behind him with 10 touches. Ronald Jones had more touches than him. But the positive of Ronald Jones was he kind of passed my eye test. I mean, he looked like a big body. He looked shifty. He was making 1 or 2 cuts and getting into that second tier of the defense. I'm not saying that I really want him on my fantasy football teams because I'm totally not convinced yet. But if he's on the waiver wire and you're in the dire straits for running backs, you need to go grab him. Other than that, I've got 3 other guys for you. Raheem Mostert with the San Francisco 49ers. Now, this one is surprising, but because of the Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, Matt Breida phenomenon going into the regular season, Raheem Mostert is 0% owned in Yahoo. So he's almost 100% available on your waiver wire, if my math is correct. He had a pretty decent showing. I mean, he had 10 touches for 40 yards. And as long as the 2 of those guys are out, Breida had a concussion week 1, and Tevin Coleman was just announced today by the 49ers that he has a high ankle sprain and will be out a couple of weeks. If he's the only guy in that backfield, he's going to have weekly flex appeal. I don't know what he's going to do yet, but they have to rush the ball somehow. Definitely worth a pickup in a league as well. I have a couple other guys that might not be worth a waiver ad, but might be worth a free agent ad. Maybe first thing tomorrow morning, or, if you're not as diehard as I am, you could just wake up at 6 o'clock like you're going to go to work and go in and pick them up first thing before you do anything else. That might work as well. Gio Bernard is one of those guys. I really like Gio. He, not only from Hard Knocks a couple years ago, but He had a couple great runs. He's shifty. He's small. He catches a ton of passes. I was sort of optimistic. I'm not somebody that owns Joe Mixon. I would never wish injury upon anybody, but I was optimistic that Gio was going to get more work this year. And Mixon happened to have, an ankle injury that they thought might have been semi-serious. It was a pretty big scare for Mixon owners. It turns out it's not. He's on track to play this week. He should be fine. No big deal, which is great news. But Gio is one of those guys that if he goes down, he's going to be the plug-and-play RB1 there, especially in PPR formats. So worth a stash in some later leagues. He's only 13% owned on Yahoo. Moving on, the last guy that I have, definitely not worth the waiver wire use, but he would be worth a free agent ad, is Gus Edwards with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the interesting piece with him, he had 17 touches in that Ravens blowout against the Dolphins. Where it kind of gets a little weird is the Ravens were playing a lot of second and third string guys late in that game because they were ahead by so much. And 12 of his 17 touches came during the fourth quarter when all the starters had left the game. So I don't really think that Gus Edwards is somebody that's going to get a ton of work. There's a couple of mouths to feed with Mark Ingram there, who's going to get the majority of that work. Justice Hill is going to get some passing down work as well. And then you have Gus Edwards too. But he might be, a late round sleeper. If you're in a deeper league and you're really looking for value in case Mark Ingram gets injured, Gus Edwards is your guy for sure. Moving on to the wide receivers. The biggest ad of the week, if you are in need of a wide receiver, is none other than the Jamison Crowder for the New York Jets. Now, he's 46% owned in Yahoo, so there's a pretty good chance he's not sitting on the waiver available to you. But slot receivers in Adam Gase's offense just seem to just perform so much better than everybody else. And the main case that I have for that would be if you look back at Miami Dolphins, back when Jarvis Landry had his super productive year, guess who was his offensive coordinator? None other than the Adam Gase. So really like Jamison Crowder there. He had 17 targets. I don't see him getting 17 targets every game. That might be a season high in targets. I mean, Sam Darnold threw the ball 41 times. I really can't expect Jamison to have that many targets. But he had 14 catches for 99 yards against a solid defense for Buffalo. So PPR leagues, Jamison's somebody you want on your team. Other than that, you've got a couple of upside guys that you can add if you need a wide receiver. Marquise Brown, a.k.a. Hollywood, is 30% owned on Yahoo and would definitely be another good ad. He was a first-round draft pick, and he had all sorts of problems with injuries. They were concerned about how much he was going to be able to play, and then he had Liz Frank surgery. And he ends up going 4 receptions, 147 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's cray. Now, if you're not sold on Lamar Jackson and his throwing ability or Hollywood's, burnout speed that you saw not only once but twice on those long balls, you can go for a little bit of a safer option in John Brown. Now, he was targeted 10 times in the passing game for Buffalo, and he's owned more than most other players because he had such a good year last year in Baltimore. I know I have him in a dynasty league. I wasn't sure what he was going to do in Buffalo, but he was targeted 10 times in the passing game and posted 7 receptions for 123 yards and 1 touchdown. Best part yet, he gets the New York Giants next week. So if you're looking for a plus matchup in the secondary, the Cowboys absolutely walloped on the Giants. They are prime and ready for another beating. Hopefully John Brown and the Buffalo Bills can get it done. Another upside guy, and I have to tell you that in every single bit of research that I do, in every projection that I make, there was a 0% chance that I saw this coming. But John Ross put up 7 catches for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns on 12 targets. Maybe I'm just not good at this fantasy thing if I couldn't project John Ross coming. I'm totally being sarcastic. Nobody saw that coming. But he's 9% owned on Yahoo, and you need a boomer bust guy to balance out your roster. Maybe you've got a bunch of high floor, consistent wide receivers and running backs, and you need that upside on your team. John Ross, is your guy. I just talked about John Brown. He got enough hype for today. A couple of other guys that might not be worth actual waiver to put in. but would be worth maybe picking up as a free agent tomorrow after 301 would be Terry McLaurin for the Washington Redskins. Now he's 3% owned, and he caught 5 of 7 targets for 125 yards and 1 touchdown. Case Keenum overthrew him. I know, surprise, right? Overthrew him on another TD pass. So he could have had actually 125 yards and 2 touchdowns, plus the yards of that catch. So it looks like he's going to be, one of the long ball guys between him and Trey Quinn for the Redskins. If you're in a dynasty league, no question, need him on your team. If you're in a deeper league, he might be one of those guys that you can use kind of that long ball upside, but be aware he's going to be boom or bust. I have 2 other guys for you in the passing game. One being Chris Conley with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know I'm not talking about DJ Chark, and it's surprising because he's the one that posted this giant stat line, but when Gardner Minshew took over this offense, he had a crazy good game. Now, it's pretty quiet, right? He caught 6 receptions for 97 yards and 1 touchdown. But you got to remember, Nick Foles is going to be out for at least a couple of weeks. If Nick Foles had rapport with DJ Chark and Gardner Minshew likes Chris Conley, then you need Chris Conley because he's going to be the guy that's going to be in the slot that's getting more work. So my last wide receiver target for you to add is DJ Chark. I'm not putting in a waiver for this guy. Personally, I'm on the D.D. Westbrook hype train, and I just actually can't stand the thought of Gardner Minshew throwing the ball anywhere other than to D.D. But he clearly had a good line. I mean, he caught 4 passes for 146 yards and a touchdown on 4 targets. So he's a long ball guy. He's fast, and he had a really good touchdown catch against the Chiefs on Sunday. So these are the guys that you should pick up this week. As far as like tight ends go, if you're somebody that streams tight ends or you need another option, I have 2 pickups for you. One of those is Jimmy Graham. Now, if you watch the Thursday night game with the Bears and the Packers, you know that Jimmy Graham's kind of lost a step. He's not the same guy that caught a ton of balls in New Orleans for the Saints. And he's going to be heavily reliant on catching touchdown passes to posting fantasy relevant numbers. But at the end of the day, he caught 3 passes for 30 yards and a touchdown. If you're in dire straits at tight end, or maybe you had somebody like Jordan Reed that didn't end up playing week 1, he might be a good stash to put on your bench so you can play with some upside. The last guy that I have, we get to see play tonight in the Oakland Raiders against Denver Broncos. Pretty excited about the game tonight. I'm really hoping that Denver actually shows up and we can see what Joe Flacco does with this offense. But more importantly, the Oakland Raiders have been scrambling for receivers since Antonio Brown was released. The reason that I know that is that they went out and grabbed Keelan Doss. And if you've watched Hard Knocks at all, you know that Keelan Doss was John Gruden's guy. Personally, I was really surprised that they released him to begin with. Maybe they just didn't see room for him behind Tyrell Williams on the depth chart. I'm not sure. But he was on the Jacksonville Jaguars practice squad, making $205,000 just a couple of days ago. And Oakland goes in there and gives him a $300,000 signing bonus and a $495,000 fully guaranteed contract. He went from making $205 to $795 in a couple of days. And that's because there's going to be targets available now that Antonio Brown is in New England. So if you're looking for somebody, go grab the Walrus, none other than the Darren Waller. I'm jumping on the hype train. We'll see how he does tonight, but I think that there's going to be a lack of targets for Derek Carr to throw to outside of Tyrell Williams and maybe Keelan Doss. So we will see what Darren Waller does tonight, but he's definitely somebody, if you're looking for a tight end. He is, however, 42% owned on Yahoo. So that's all I've got for you guys today. I will go over my picks and how we did at the end of this stream here. I'll post them so you can see them. And make sure that you're going to pick up these guys if you need them. I'll be here every single week on Mondays posting a video for you guys to know who to pick up as a free agent or a waiver wire pickup for that week. This is going to put you so far ahead of all of your competition that you're going to start to see some of this money come in as you're moving up on the waivers. As you're moving up on your prospective team. And, if you can save that waiver and move up a couple of spots and grab, a guy as a free agent tomorrow morning early, go ahead and do that too. It's only going to give you more of a competitive advantage on your team this year. That's all I've got for you guys. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below for future notifications on videos. That way you guys are tuned in to everything that I'm putting up to help you guys win your league. And then every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on my Twitch channel, I'll put the link in the notes down below, we will do a stardom, sit-em, review a couple of different rosters. I'll go through all 8 of my teams, and we can set lineups, and you can ask questions, interactive on who you should start that week and who you should sit. That's all I've got. Looking forward to the Saints-Texans game first, but more importantly, go Broncos.
The most important thing in life will always be the people in this room, right here, right now. Salute me, familia.